Guys, Barcelona have finally lost their first Clásico in 2025, and it was also the first Clásico loss for Hansi Flick as a Barcelona manager, but coincidentally it was Xabi Alonso's first Clásico win, Marcus Rashford's first Clásico loss, and two English players playing against each other for the first time in a Clásico. Too many stats, but I'm not here to talk about stats. Now I'm here to discuss something far more important, the key moments that decided the outcome of this season's first Clásico. And I want to start with point number one, and that is the tactical inclusion of these three players. Now guys, on the surface this might seem like a regular Real Madrid lineup as it's expected to start these three players, but it was more about the tactical plan behind their inclusion in the team, and it was simple but genius. Jude Bellingham to provide a blend of physicality and creativity in midfield, Vinicius to offer width and penetration through the flanks, while Kylian Mbappé would be on hand to deliver the killer blow through incisive pace and surgical finishing, and it worked perfectly, especially in the first half. But let's demonstrate this, and there's no better way to do so than with the first goal. Look at when the move begins. Look at the distance between our lines. They're far too apart. To make the high line work, you have to put pressure on the creative player to stop them from picking out the pass. Now, brilliant play from Bellingham to lose Pedri on the turn, and as soon as that happens, Mbappé spots the danger. Bellingham has the time and space to pick out the pass. The high line is vulnerable because of Mbappe's speed, which he uses to full advantage as he latches onto that through ball, and Madrid are 1-0 up. But again, it's down to that lack of intensity to maintain compactness that leaves the high line exposed. But it wasn't just about the goal, guys. This happened all through the first half. Mbappé was just too quick, and it was causing our centre-backs all sorts of trouble in defence, and they just couldn't keep up with his pace, power and precision. And then Vinicius was terrorising Jules Koundé out on the left, which makes me wonder, should Hansi Flick have started Araujo out on the right to keep Vinicius quiet on the night? We've seen Araujo be successful against Vinicius Jr. in the past, but again, Hansi Flick was more loyal to his high line, choosing philosophy over practicality, which ended up costing us on the night because look at the second goal from Real Madrid. Look where the play starts as Vinicius beating Koundé out on the left, putting in what seemed like a harmless cross at first, but then look at the moment when Militao wins that header. Look at the lack of defensive awareness from Frankie de Jong and Kubasi. Where are they going? There's no danger there. The danger is right in front of the goal. That's where you're meant to protect. And guys, I've said this time and time again, Barcelona need a defensive expert in their coaching staff because for all the technical brilliance of these players, they just don't know basic rules of defending. Where are you going? How can Jude Bellingham, a midfielder, have this much freedom 2 yards away from your goal? This is embarrassing. The whole world is watching us, guys. It's the Clásico. No wonder Bellingham walks up very cheekily. He couldn't believe his luck. But I want to point out something on the build-up to the goal. Look at Lamine Yamal when Vinicius is in possession. It's a 2v1 and then all of a sudden he drops off. He couldn't be bothered. How can Vinicius be allowed to get the cross off when it's a 2v1? It's basic defending. What you need to do, Koundé goes outside and Lamine stays inside. The best Vinicius is going to get in that instance is a throw-in. But Lamine drops off, and as soon as Vinicius spots that, he says thank you very much and he takes Koundé on a run to further isolate him. This is how he was able to get off the cross that led to the goal. And guys, this lack of support from Lamine Yamal for Koundé out on the right was beyond just one player. It was evident across the team, and this takes me to my second decisive point of the match, the history going into this game. Guys, I've said this time and time again, tactics can only get you so far, but mentality will get you across the line. Look at this play. And then look at this. What did you notice? One player supporting his teammate to stop the impending danger while the other player just couldn't be bothered. Koundé was left on his own all night to deal with Vinicius, and it was only when Vinicius was stopped off that Koundé started to see some joy out in attack. He even had a chance in the 88th minute that he threw away. Now, Rashford was a bit better in that regard as he often came back to help Balde in defense and transitions, but it wasn't enough. The whole team needed to be involved and they just weren't on the night. This happened all game long, guys. Look at Madrid. This is a team that were mentally poised for vengeance. That's all Madrid have dreamt about since Koundé's strike in the cup final. You win 4 Clásicos in a season, followed by a domestic treble, and then just 2 days before the match, you go on a live stream to trash talk your opponent. It was all the fuel that Real Madrid needed coming into this match, and you can see it in the way that they tackled every ball, the way they celebrated after the game. They simply wanted this more than we did, and to get the result they so desperately wanted, they were willing to put their egos aside and play for each other. And if you still think I'm just making this up, look at this chance that we had at 2-1 to level the game. Lamine does brilliantly to skip away from the pressure and lay a pass out to Fermin Lopez, who does even better to carry the ball forward right into the danger zone of Real Madrid's defense. Now it's a 3-on-2, guys. Barcelona actually had the numerical advantage. Fermin had two great options on both sides of attack. What does he choose to do instead? Fires a lazy shot into the hands of Courtois. And that's when I realized this team needed a mental reset. Because, let's rewind to last season. Same situation, what do? Easy. Play for each other and you win. And it's too many players right now getting carried away, playing for individual glory rather than for the team. Guys, Rashford looks more like a team player than some of these Barcelona players, and he's on loan. Honestly, guys, never mind tactics. If Hansi Flick doesn't figure out a way to get these players playing for each other again, I can see Barcelona headed for a trophyless season, and I'm not even joking. Now, if you allow me to play devil's advocate here, overall, I do think Barcelona were severely handicapped in attack as we're missing key players in Rafinha and Lewandowski, and it showed because Real Madrid's defense were pretty comfortable for long stretches of the game. But this takes me to my final reason, and I promise you it's more significant than you may think. It's managing our squad depth. Guys, if you remember at the beginning of the season, I said 27 million in a transfer window is a joke for a club like Barcelona. We couldn't sign the players the coach wanted, and worse still, we couldn't even keep the ones we had. I mean, it's like handicapping the coach and then expecting a miracle. After every big season, serious clubs refresh their squads because of what? Fatigue. Look at Arsenal bringing in Gyökeres. Look at Madrid bringing in Huijsen, Trent, Mastantuono. The list goes on. And for a club that plays the type of high-intensity counter-pressing system that Barcelona do, after the season we had, you have to bring in fresh legs. When you don't reinforce your squad after a long season, you don't have enough players to help you avoid fatigue. What you get is loads of injuries, and that is exactly what's happening. Too many players missing and others being pulled out of position to replace them. You get a disjointed team and they aren't able to execute with the same efficiency as before. And you could see how this affected us tactically. Real Madrid were more than happy to relinquish control of the game to us, sitting deep and hitting us with fast breaks on the counter, and it was working all because, despite all the control we had in midfield, we lacked penetration in attack. Rashford is great when running in behind, but you need a focal point to get on the end of Lamine Yamal's crosses into the box. Ferran Torres looked half a pace off because he's just returning from injury. No Rafinha, no Lewandowski, and so we were practically harmless. It was a lot of side-to-side passing, but not much verticality. And although we saw glimpses of brilliance in counter-pressing, which led to Fermin's equaliser, we just couldn't keep it up through the night. Guys, how I miss Rafinha in this game. It's almost like if Madrid had to play without Mbappé. And for a team that relies on outscoring the opponent, we can't afford to not have our attackers healthy, especially in big games. And so in conclusion, I'm not going to say it was a terrible performance from Barcelona because it wasn't. Far from it actually. In fact, I think Real Madrid have more to be worried about if both teams happen to be fully fit. They might have won the game on the night, but they didn't particularly dominate Barcelona. Maybe they might have been tactically more decisive, but for the last 30 minutes of the game, they literally played deep in their own half. I actually thought that was embarrassing because they were playing at home. So I think we can't take some positives away from this game, which brings me to my most important advice going forward. Hansi Flick must get every single player involved. Barcelona has never been about too many superstars. It's been about players who understand the philosophy and are willing to fight for it. Bring in Marc Bernal, Rooney Bargi, Dro Fernandes, Tony Fernandes into the team. Much like we did with Ferran Torres last season to much success, let these players feel valued. Give them minutes. Let them feel like their contributions matter and not like their afterthoughts. We need them. As long as they understand our philosophy, let them play. This will help us battle fatigue because this high pressure football that we play is not sustainable with just 11 players. This is my humble advice. But I'm just going to leave it there. Tell me how you're feeling in the comments and please like and subscribe so you can help the channel grow. I've got amazing plans coming up for you guys on this channel, but I need your support to be able to execute. Don't leave me hanging like Lamine Yamal left Koundé tonight. As always, guys, let's stay positive and I'll be back to break down the game against Elche on Sunday. See you soon, guys, and Visca El Barça.